Women don't remember the flowers you bought, the dinners you paid for, or the vacations you posted on Instagram. All of that fades. What they remember, what haunts them in silence, are the words. Words that pierce through their skin. Words that burn themselves into memory. Words that they hear echoing in their head at night when the room is dark and quiet. Every man talks. Few men leave scars with their voice. And in this world, the man who leaves scars is the man she cannot forget. Most men throw words like they're cheap coins scattered on the street. Good morning, babe. You're so hot. I miss you. Forgettable phrases that could come from any man with a working phone and a pulse. But then there are men who speak like fire. They whisper a phrase so sharp, so rare, that it brands her. She can be years removed from him, living with another man, raising another man's kids. And yet, a single phrase he once said still flashes in her mind, still makes her restless. That's the power of unforgettable words. And brother, let me warn you. This is not a game. This isn't about cheesy pickup lines or some internet trick to hack attraction. Words only work if they come from a place of presence. They only cut deep when you speak them with weight. Tonight I'm going to give you 8 phrases. 8 verbal blades that, if used with restraint and truth, will make you unforgettable to any woman you meet. But remember, the blade only cuts if the hand that holds it is steady. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And if that's true, then your words are the dye. Every phrase you whisper into her ear, every sentence you leave hanging in her mind, is painting her perception of you. Most men never understand this. They think presence is about how tall you stand, how much money you make, how good your jawline looks in the right lighting. But presence begins with language. Because your words reveal what you see, what you value, what you have the strength to withhold. Think about it. How many women lie awake at night playing back a man's paycheck in their mind? But millions lie awake replaying something a man whispered, something that made her feel seen, desired, protected, or shaken. That's because words bypass logic and go straight into the nervous system. They touch identity. They awaken curiosity. They create unfinished loops that keep her chasing resolution. And if you want to become unforgettable, you must master the art of phrases that linger like smoke in her chest. This is not about manipulation. This is about mastery, about restraint, timing, and precision. Tonight I'll take you through 8 phrases. Each one is simple, but each one carries the weight of a sword when spoken by a man who means it. I'll show you the psychology behind it. I'll give you real stories of men who've used it. And I'll anchor it in the wisdom of the Stoics, men who knew that words are not toys but weapons. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to leave marks on her memory that no other man can erase. Phrase 1. I see you. Here's the problem with most men. They only notice the obvious. They see her beauty, her curves, her smile. And because of that, their words collapse into clichés. You're so beautiful. You're stunning. She's heard it 10,000 times. It washes over her like background noise. Meaningless, cheap. What she craves, what pierces her deeper than any compliment, is recognition. She doesn't just want to be looked at. She wants to be seen. Psychology backs this up. Women are constantly objectified in society, reduced to physical parts. That's why attention on her body means so little. It's common. But when a man looks at her, pauses and whispers, "I see you," something in her shifts. Because it's no longer about her looks. It's about her essence. It's about her soul. And that recognition creates obsession, because every woman secretly craves a man who can see past the mask she shows the world. Tom, 48, understood this by accident. He was on a second date with a woman who had lived her whole life being told she was pretty. During dinner, he looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I see you." She froze. Later that night, she admitted no man had ever said that to her. Months later, long after they stopped seeing each other, she confessed she still thought about that phrase. Why? Because in a world of shallow flattery, Tom's words were a mirror that touched her identity. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Seeing her isn't about inventing flowery language. It's about noticing, listening, and then distilling it into words that cut. When you look at her, pause and simply whisper, "I see you." It doesn't sound like a line. Sounds like truth. And truth, spoken with presence, brands itself into memory. Here's your shift. Stop drowning her in predictable compliments. Stop telling her what every other man notices. Instead, slow down. Pay attention. When you recognize something deeper, her thought, her spirit, her effort, and you put it into words, you'll be burned into her memory. Because the man who truly sees her will always be the man she cannot forget. Phrase 2. I've got you. Most men think attraction starts with desire. They believe if they shower her with compliments, tell her how badly they want her, she'll finally break down and give them what they crave. But they've got it backwards. Desire doesn't start with hunger. Starts with safety. A woman cannot surrender to attraction until she feels her nervous system settle in your presence. If she doesn't feel safe, every word you whisper sounds like manipulation. But when she feels grounded with you, even 2 words can flip the switch. And the phrase that does it best is this: I've got you. Psychology makes this clear. The female nervous system is wired for survival first, romance second. That wiring goes back thousands of years. In the wild, women didn't choose the man who was the most poetic. They chose the man who could keep them alive. That instinct is still buried deep in her brain. When you whisper, "I've got you," you're speaking directly to her primal need for security. It's not about control. It's about calm. Those words tell her, you can relax now. You're safe here. And in that safety, desire has room to breathe. David, 41, discovered this with a woman who had been burned badly in her last relationship. One night, as they lay in bed, she started to spiral, whispering doubts about whether she could trust anyone again. Most men in that moment would panic, flood her with empty promises, or worse, get defensive. David didn't. He simply wrapped his arm around her, leaned in and whispered, "I've got you. Don't worry." She later admitted those 4 words turned her on more than any compliment, more than any sexual advance. Why? Because her body finally relaxed. She felt anchored. And when her fear melted, her desire exploded. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." When a woman is anxious, her body estimates danger, even if no danger is present. The man who can whisper safety, who can quiet her storms instead of feeding them, becomes unforgettable. Because he's not just another man chasing her body. He's the man who gives her nervous system rest. Here's your shift. Stop rushing to prove desire. Stop trying to talk her into passion. Instead, whisper safety first. Let her body feel calm in your presence. Once she feels safe, desire will follow like a shadow. And when you whisper, "I've got you" at the right moment, you won't just be the man she wants for a night. You'll be the man her body remembers forever. Phrase 3. Maybe tomorrow. Here's a truth most men refuse to hear. Obsession isn't born from answers, it's born from questions. Certainty might feel safe, but it doesn't keep her awake at night. What haunts her is ambiguity. What makes her restless is the unfinished thought. This is where the phrase, "maybe tomorrow," becomes a weapon. Because it's not just 2 words. It's an open loop, a doorway left cracked, an echo that her mind keeps chasing long after you've gone silent. Psychology calls this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency of the human mind to fixate on what's incomplete. That's why you binge-watch shows until 3 a.m., why you keep replaying a conversation when you don't know how someone really felt. The brain hates open loops, craves closure. And when you whisper, "maybe tomorrow," you deny her that closure. You leave her imagination doing the work for you, spinning with possibilities, each one more intoxicating than the last. Jonathan, 42, mastered this without even realizing it. After a late-night date, as he kissed a woman goodnight, she asked if she'd see him again. Most men would have jumped at the chance to reassure her. Jonathan didn't. He kissed her forehead, smiled and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow." Then he walked away. She admitted later that she couldn't sleep that night. Her brain replayed those words like a looped soundtrack. Did he mean it? Was he teasing? Was he serious? That one phrase haunted her more than any declaration of love ever could. Seneca once said, "It is part of the cure to wish to be cured." In the same way, obsession is part of the cure to unfinished business. When you leave her with mystery, with a question, she wishes to resolve it. And that wish turns into obsession. Here's your shift. Stop giving her all the answers. Stop filling the silence with endless reassurance. Instead, plant seeds of curiosity. Whisper phrases that dangle possibility without locking it down. Because the man who leaves her wondering is the man she cannot stop chasing. And when you whisper, "maybe tomorrow," you don't just give her hope, you give her hunger. Phrase 4. Not yet. Here's where most men destroy themselves. They hand over all their desire at once. They gush, they confess, they dump every ounce of attraction onto her like a bucket of water, and then they wonder why she pulls away. The truth is simple. What's abundant loses value. What's scarce becomes priceless. That's why the phrase "not yet" is so powerful. It's not a rejection. It's restraint. And in that restraint, you create tension that lingers in her chest long after the words leave your lips. Psychology proves this. Desire thrives on anticipation. Think of it like music. If every note dropped at once, there'd be no rhythm, no build, no climax. The silence between notes makes the sound meaningful. In attraction, the pause makes the pursuit irresistible. Whispering "not yet" tells her two things at once. 1, that you feel the fire. 2, that you have the strength to hold it back. That duality is magnetic because it separates you from weak men who collapse at the first spark. Michael, 37, used to ruin moments by throwing himself at women, texting them 20 times a day, confessing how much he wanted them. They always slipped away. But one night, lying next to a woman who leaned in to escalate, he stopped her gently, smiled and whispered, "Not yet." She told him later those 2 words drove her insane. Why? Because they revealed his control. They showed he wasn't desperate. They left her wondering when the yet would finally come. And that wondering became obsession. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This is the essence of restraint. A man who can govern his own hunger commands respect. A man who can hold back even when he wants more becomes unforgettable. Here's your shift. Stop thinking attraction is about giving more. It's about giving less, but giving it with weight. Whisper "not yet" at the right moment, and you transform desire from something fleeting into something that simmers, something she can't escape. Because the hunger you hold back will always be stronger than the hunger you pour out. Phrase 5. Enough. Most men are terrified of this word. They think saying "enough" will push her away, that it will cost them the connection, the intimacy, the attention. So they tolerate disrespect, they laugh off games, they bend until they break. But here's the truth. A man without boundaries is never unforgettable. He's disposable. The phrase "enough" cuts through the noise because it shows her you value yourself more than you value her approval. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes her respect you. Psychologically, this comes down to dominance and self-respect. Humans, and especially women, are wired to test boundaries. Not because they're malicious, but because boundaries reveal strength. If she pushes and you crumble, she learns you are not the anchor she needs. But when you look her in the eye and whisper "enough" with calm certainty, you're not punishing her, you're leading. And women crave a man who leads himself before he tries to lead anyone else. Paul, 39, learned this the hard way. In his 20s, he put women on pedestals, tolerated insults, allowed constant disrespect. He thought it was keeping the peace. But the peace never lasted. They always left. In his late 30s, something shifted. One night, when a woman tried to drag him into drama, he leaned back, locked eyes, and said one word: "Enough." He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just stated it as fact. She froze, then later admitted that was the moment she started chasing him. Why? Because she finally felt his backbone. Epictetus once wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The man who can say, "enough," is the man who proves he doesn't need her approval, doesn't need endless validation, doesn't need to win every argument. He needs only to protect his frame. And that is wealth far greater than possessions. Here's your shift. Stop being afraid of boundaries. Stop thinking you need to give in to keep her. The opposite is true. When you calmly whisper, "enough," you draw the line in stone. You prove that you're not another man who bends until he breaks. And that moment of unshakable clarity, that's what etches you into her memory forever. Phrase 6. I shouldn't want you this much. Weak men either hide their desire out of fear, or they drown her in it like a flood. Both approaches fail. Hide your desire completely, and she feels no magnetism. Smother her with it, and she feels no respect. The secret is in balance, revealing just enough want to spark her imagination, but framing it with control. That's where the phrase, "I shouldn't want you this much," works like fire, because it tells her two things at once. 1, that you desire her deeply. 2, that you are still strong enough to hold yourself back. Psychologically, this phrase taps into duality, the tension between vulnerability and restraint. Women are drawn to men who can walk the knife's edge, who can confess want without collapsing into neediness. When you whisper, "I shouldn't want you this much," you're admitting to a pull she already feels, but you're not begging. You're showing her you're aware of your desire, and that you're still the one in control. That paradox drives her wild. Michael, 37, found this out one night after years of failure. He used to throw everything at women. Constant texts, endless confessions, desperate pleas for affection. They all ran. But one night, lying in bed with a woman he couldn't stop thinking about, he leaned close, looked her in the eyes and whispered, "I shouldn't want you this much." Then he stopped. No explanation. No chase. He rolled onto his back and let the silence hang. She told him later those words tortured her all night. Why? Because he confessed just enough to spark her imagination, and then left the rest for her to chase. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery." That's exactly what this phrase communicates. It's not weakness to admit desire. Weakness is drowning her in it. Strength is admitting just enough to ignite her, while keeping the frame strong enough to hold back. Here's your shift. Stop running from your desire and stop dumping it all over her. Find the middle ground. Whisper, "I shouldn't want you this much" once, then go silent. Let her imagination do the work. Because when your restraint meets your vulnerability, she won't just want you. She'll obsess over you. Phrase 7. I like how your mind works. Every man on this planet knows how to compliment a woman's beauty. You're gorgeous. You're sexy. You're stunning. Those words mean nothing because they're recycled, generic, and given out like candy. 1,000 men before you have said them, and 1,000 after you will too. They wash off her skin like water. But when you look at a woman, pause and whisper, "I like how your mind works," you're not speaking to her body. You're speaking to her identity. And identity is where obsession lives. Psychologically, this is the difference between surface-level attraction and core-level connection. Complimenting her looks is cheap validation. Complimenting her mind is recognition. Women crave recognition because it tells them you see what no one else sees. You're not blinded by the mask of beauty. You're tuned into something deeper. That makes you rare. And rarity is unforgettable. Tom 48 proved this one night. He was lying beside a woman who was used to being called pretty. She had lived her entire life being reduced to her looks. Tom broke the pattern. In the quiet, he leaned in and said, "I like how your mind works." She later confessed those words haunted her more than any sexual compliment ever could. Because it wasn't about her body. It was about her essence. And once a man speaks to a woman's essence, she can never forget him. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you tell her you like how her mind works, you're painting yourself into her thoughts, dyeing her soul with recognition. You're telling her that the way she processes the world matters to you. And that, brother, is a phrase that lingers for life. Here's your shift. Stop playing in the shallow waters of beauty. Go deeper. Pay attention to the way she thinks, the way she solves problems, the way she laughs at something clever. Then whisper, "I like how your mind works." Say it once. Say it with weight. And watch how you carve yourself into her memory in a way no other man ever has. Phrase 8. Sleep tight. Here's a secret most men will never understand. The last words she hears before sleep are the ones that echo the loudest. At night, her defenses drop. Her imagination rises. The subconscious takes whatever you plant in that fragile window and stamps it into memory. That's why the phrase "sleep tight" is not small talk. It's not a throwaway line. Spoken with presence, it becomes an anchor in her subconscious. It makes you the bridge between her night and her morning. Psychology calls this emotional encoding. The brain processes and consolidates memories during sleep, and the emotions attached to those memories become amplified. When you whisper "sleep tight" with warmth and calm authority, you're telling her she's safe, she's thought of, and she's not alone. Those words wrap around her nervous system like a blanket. And when she wakes up, the first thought in her head will be the man whose voice she fell asleep to. Daniel, 35, discovered this unintentionally. Every night, no matter how tired he was, he leaned in close to the woman he was seeing and whispered, "Sleep tight." He didn't flood her with paragraphs. He didn't overcomplicate it. Just 2 words spoken consistently. Months later, after they had drifted apart, she admitted those words still lingered in her memory, because they became associated with comfort, closure, and intimacy. She couldn't shake them. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." At night, her imagination runs free. If your voice is the last thing she hears, your presence becomes her comfort, and her obsession. Sleep tight isn't about the words. It's about the mark they leave in her dreams. Here's your shift. Stop ending nights with emptiness. Stop sending weak, lazy good nights like every other man. Instead, claim the last moment of her day. Whisper "sleep tight" with calm authority, and you'll own her thoughts until morning. So here we are, brother. 8 phrases, 8 weapons. Each one simple, but heavy when spoken with presence. I see you. I've got you. Maybe tomorrow. Not yet. Enough. I shouldn't want you this much. I like how your mind works. Sleep tight. These aren't tricks. These aren't scripts. They are reflections of a man who has mastered restraint, presence, and truth. Marcus Aurelius warned us. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. These words will only pierce her if they come from the mouth of a man who lives them. If you're weak, if you're desperate, if you're pretending, they'll fall flat. But if you speak them from a place of calm, grounded strength, they'll brand themselves into her memory for years. This is the path of the Stoic man. The man who doesn't waste words. Who doesn't hand out validation like candy. Who doesn't beg for attention. He speaks little, but when he speaks, she feels it in her bones. That is how you become unforgettable. Not by flooding her with noise, but by whispering words that linger like echoes in her chest. Brother, if you're ready to stop being another man in her inbox and start being the man she obsesses over, then here's what I want you to do. Drop the word "unforgettable" in the comments. Claim it. Stamp it into your own mind. And subscribe, because in the next video I'll show you how silence, not words, can make her chase you harder than anything you've ever said. Until then, remember this. Phrases fade. Gifts fade. Looks fade. But the man who speaks with presence, that man will echo in her mind forever.